and Gregor Manku, interdependence on the gains from trade. We're going to end things right here. So now the farmer and rancher specialize in trade. Each party would be better off if they specialized in producing the product they are most suited to produce and then trade with each other. So, farmer should produce potatoes, rancher should produce meat. But our question that we're going to attempt to answer is, who can produce potatoes at a lower cost, the farmer or the rancher? And this leads us to two terms that are very important in this analysis. Term number one, next slide, absolute advantage, which is, it describes the productivity of one person, firm, or nation compared to that of another. Absolute advantage can be measured in two ways. One, the least number of hours to produce a good, and two, the most number of goods produced in a given amount of time. So the rancher had an absolute advantage in producing both meat and potatoes. But trade still could occur, and trade could still occur because of, next slide, comparative advantage. And this compares producers of a good according to their opportunity cost, which, as you remember, is the cost of the foregone alternative. The producer who has a smaller opportunity cost of producing a good is said to have a comparative advantage. And we mean who can produce the same thing for the least cost, what takes the least amount of time or effort. And as we'll find out, those are two different things. So it's not necessarily whether I'm better than somebody, but what am I most suited to do? If I'm the farmer, am I most suited to produce potatoes or meat? If I'm the rancher, am I most suited to produce either potatoes or meat? Okay, so we go to our big table here that shows comparative advantage. Opportunity cost of meat and potatoes, farmer, rancher, 1 pound of meat, 1 pound of potatoes. Now, through some calculation that we'll see in the next slide, the opportunity cost for 1 pound of meat to the farmer is 2 pounds of potatoes. And the opportunity cost of 1 pound of potatoes is half a pound of meat for the farmer. For the rancher, the opportunity cost of 1 pound of meat is eighth of a pound of potatoes, and the opportunity cost of 1 pound of potatoes is 8 pounds of meat. So let's get the pointer. For the rancher, well, I haven't done this in a while. Rancher has a comparative advantage in meat because that person can produce the meat in the least amount of cost, and the farmer has a comparative advantage in the production of potatoes. He or she gives up the least amount of meat in order to produce potatoes. Okay. Now, how did we get these calculations? So this table that you're looking at here is the self-sufficiency table. Look at the right-hand side, amount produced in 40 hours. For the farmer under self-sufficiency, he or she can produce either in 40 hours 2 pounds of meat or 4 pounds of potatoes. The equation, 2m equals 4p. The equal signs means in 40 hours they can produce either one or the other. For the rancher under self-sufficiency, he or she can produce either 40 pounds of meat or 5 pounds of potatoes, or 40m equals 5p. Now, what you do is you solve for 1 on either of the equations. We set these equations equal to 1. Example, 1 pound of meat equals 2 pounds of potatoes for the farmer. And so that is what we put in the first square on the table in in the previous slide. So that is the opportunity cost for the farmer. 1 pound of meat equals 2 pounds of potatoes. All right, and you can do that on your own. I'm sure there'll be some aptly exercises for that. Okay, a real life example. Should Tiger Woods mow his own lawn? This is an example of comparative advantage. In your book, there's a discussion of Tiger Woods and Forrest Gump. Tiger Woods theoretically can mow his own lawn and play golf better than Forrest Gump can. But when Tiger mows his own lawn, he gives up the opportunity to play golf. And so that's not a good use of his time. Forrest, on the other hand, does much better at mowing lawn than playing golf. Tiger should specialize in his time. His time is much more valuable playing golf than it is mowing the lawn. Forrest, his time is much more valuable mowing the lawn than playing golf. Tiger's earnings obviously can and will go down a little bit for other reasons that I'm sure all of you are very much aware. Okay, now we go on to the next slide. Pros and cons of globalization. Globalization, as I've just discussed with you, is pretty much a slam dunk when it comes to advantages of all goods. But there are definitely some winners and losers from globalization. There are some other impacts of globalization. So I invite you to view some videos about outsourcing and globalization. I'll probably have some up on the Laulima website, especially from a guy named Paul Salmon from the NewsHour. And another impact of globalization is immigration. Globalization comes to the domestic country. So I will, in all likelihood, have a discussion question for you based on an internet video about immigration. So until then, this is the end of Chapter 3. See you next